How's it going, everyone? It's Eli with Common Sense, and I hope you're having a wonderful week so far. And this past couple weeks, I've been doing a lot of frequenting around my local rack stores. I've been checking out TJ Maxx, Marshalls, and I found a couple really awesome Middle Eastern fragrances from the house of Milestone perfumes. So if you haven't checked out my video, I've done a video where I cover 10 of the best bang for your buck fragrances from the house of Milestone. So check it out up there if you want to see some Milestone fragrances that are really worth the 15 bucks. But today we're going to be looking at two brand new fragrances, and I'm so excited to get into this one today. So stick around, make yourself comfortable, and let's jump right in. Welcome everyone to the channel. It's great to have you back. So today we're going to be looking at two fragrances from the house of Milestone perfumes, and it's kind of crazy that you can even find these Middle Eastern fragrances in the rack stores, especially in the US, because I mean, that's just kind of wild. We're going to be looking at Soleil, Blanc, and Forever Paradise. So first up, we're going to look at Soleil Blanc. So as you can see, this one was $20, and I've noticed that a lot of these Milestone perfumes fragrances are creeping up in price. They used to be $13, then they were $15, and now they're $19.99. So you're still getting a pretty good bang for your buck, especially for these fragrances for the price. They smell really nice, but I've just been noticing them creeping up. But I guess if you compare them to like Lattafa or some of the other ones, they're a lot more expensive than this price, so I think it's still worth it. So the thing with Soleil Blanc is they switch up the cap design. Of course, with the other ones that they released, they look very, very similar to the Tom Ford cap style. It has this sort of beveled look, and this one is just a very plain cap. Doesn't really share that look. But it definitely does still have some weight and some heft, and it feels really good for a $20 fragrance. Again, this one shares that really hideous raised pedestal. It is part of the bottle, so I'm not a huge fan of it, but you get 100 ml. And this is an eau de parfum. Another thing that is a huge downgrade is the atomizer. Take a look at this. It's just a super wimpy little puff of fragrance, whereas the original Milestone Tom Ford looking bottles are a nice pressurized blast of fragrance. So this one is just a little puff. So based on the name and the bottle alone, this is going to be a twist on Soleil Blanc by Tom Ford. And I'm not entirely sure if this is going to be based off of the Eau de Soleil Blanc or the original Soleil Blanc. I have a feeling like it's going to be the original Soleil Blanc because I did test this against the Eau de Soleil Blanc, and it does have a really similar vibes, especially in the dry down, but the opening is a little bit different. So this fragrance opens up with a blast of creamy coconut, and you also have some bergamot and cardamom, and it also has a little bit of a peppery wood in here, and some of the white florals that are used in here make it smell almost like a sunblock or a suntan lotion, and I absolutely love that with the original Soleil Blanc and the Eau de Soleil Blanc. But I think here it definitely does that. Maybe it's about 70–80% similar in the opening, whereas the original might be just a tad sweeter. I think this definitely leans a little bit more feminine. It is unisex, and I have worn the Eau de Soleil Blanc many times before, but I think I'm honestly comfortable wearing this one. I have worn it out with friends, and I've got a couple compliments on it. Somebody mentioned that I smelled very fragrant, so I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, but they definitely noticed the fragrance about 4 to 5 hours after I had sprayed it, so that's a good sign. I absolutely love the ylang ylang and the tuberose in here because the ylang ylang gives it a little bit of a tropical creamy touch, and it almost gives it a waxy kind of banana-like vibe. So it's going to be a little bit tropical, but very creamy, especially from the coconut and those nice white florals in here. You also have a little bit of a radiant solar quality, and solar basically just means it's going to smell very warm, and it kind of just smells like hot summer skin, so almost just like a warmth radiating from this. And so that skin kind of creaminess combined with the coconut really does give off that sort of suntan lotion and sunscreen vibe, and it really just smells perfect for the summer or the spring. You also have some vanillic sweetness from the tonka and the benzoin in the base, and so as this dries down, it definitely smells smells more akin to the original Tom Ford, but if you're looking at the price for $20 or $15, depending on where you pick it up, I think this is going to be a fantastic rendition of that Tom Ford fragrance, the Soleil Blanc, in that ballpark. And if you smell this in the air, it's definitely going to remind you of it. You're not going to really be picking it apart or, you know, comparing some of the subtle nuances, especially if somebody's just passing by. They're going to smell you and they're going to think you smell really nice. And it is really cool that I was able to find it in, you know, the rack stores locally, because I have been looking for a Soleil Blanc alternative. So this is a really nice option for $20. Now, performance-wise, I actually get a solid 3 to 4 hours out of this, and I could still smell it radiating off of my arms, off my chest for about 4 hours after that. So it's very strong, and it has a beautiful bubble and a sillage trail around you. So people are going to notice, and you can still smell it about 10 hours after that. So 10 hours with 3-4 hours of projection. This stuff is really good for the money. I'm actually a fan of this kind of minimalistic cap, and I only wish that they would either extend the bottle or make a smaller bottle size, because if it looks like this, it would almost look like the Maison Francis Kirkjohn bottles in it. I don't know, I feel like that looks cleaner on the shelf as opposed to this monstrosity. And of course, the atomizer just being so just like a little water gun. But scent-wise, longevity, and performance-wise, it is a no-brainer at $20. And that one is Milestone Perfumes Soleil Blanc. And lastly, we're looking at Milestone Perfumes Forever Paradise. So if you look at this bottle and if you look it up online, this name, you are going to find some similarities between Carolina Herrera's Vetiver Paradise. Now, I do want to say that I feel like this could be also inspired by Carolina Herrera's Blonde Jasmine, because you're getting a ton of jasmine in here, and it's not quite as vetiver dominant as I would imagine. Now, keep in mind, I have not smelled either of those, but looking at the note breakdown of Blonde Jasmine, I feel like it aligns with what I smell in this one more as opposed to the Vetiver Paradise. And I'll go more into that in a minute. This one has a beautiful bottle. It's got this sort of chiseled look. You have this nice plate on the front, and the cap is a nice weight to it, and it also has that sort of chiseled look. The atomizer is much better in this one, and I'll just give you a look. It's pressurized, so it's almost like you can just spray it everywhere and it just keeps going. Oh man, that stuff smells heavenly. Now this one, when I smell the opening, it immediately reminds me of kind of like a Tokyo milk fragrance. So that same style of a nice, rich, musky floral that gives off almost like a luxurious soap or apothecary vibe. So it's gonna be very soapy, luxurious. It kind of just smells like fresh hotel linen, so very musky and clean. You also get a blast of freshness from some citruses and mandarin, and I feel like you also have a ton of jasmine in here, so it's going to be very creamy, very floral, and it definitely is going to smell a little bit more feminine. So if you like a musky white floral fragrance, I think this is going to be very bright, effervescent, and I think this is going to be up your alley. You also have some cypress, so it gives it off a little bit more of a woody tone, especially as this dries down. But honestly, I get a bitter and kind of sweet grapefruit up top with a nice juicy gourmand bergamot. Yeah, just the way that the bergamot opens up, it's very bright and it's very energetic, and it reminds me almost like the opening in Louis Vuitton's Imagination. So it's going to be that very summery, kind of citrusy, bright, shiny opening, and it definitely has some musks and that jasmine. You also get quite a bit of peppery woods in this, so you're going to have some pepper and maybe some ambroxan or some sort of ambergris notes in here. So it's going to smell very ambery, very musky, and it's definitely going to be clean smelling. So I've actually worn this many times getting out of the shower, and I just love the way that the white florals, the musks, and almost like a bit of a tea vibe kind of come out of this, and it really does smell kind of similar to that Louis Vuitton Imagination while having more of a soft, not quite as harsh edge as that one. Not saying that that one is harsh, but this one is just a little bit softer with the florals. You get a nice honey-like sweetness from the neroli, and it smells very damp and a little bit like some damp earth, especially as this dries down. It's a little bit wet, and it just smells very aquatic and very clean still. I feel like I also get a touch of ginger in here, so it's a little energetic and a little bit spicy. I think this stuff definitely gets much better as it dries down, and it smells a little bit more unisex once it settles down because the musks come out. You get a little bit more of that vetiver and the jasmine, and I think you can definitely pull this off as a guy, especially if you let it dry down a little bit, or if you're not afraid of some florals, because I'm not. I love florals. Again, I have a feeling like this one is going to lean a little bit more towards the blonde jasmine, despite the name. I have seen that in some of the Milestone perfumes. I know the ambre leather is more close to ombre nomad than it is the ombre leather, despite having the black Tom Ford bottles. So it's a little bit deceptive, but I have a feeling that this kind of bridges the gap between those two Carolina Herrera fragrances without really smelling them. So take this with a grain of salt. But judging this on its own, I think it smells absolutely fantastic. Longevity-wise, this lasts a good 12 hours, performing very strong for the first 4 hours. So this is one of the strongest and most long-lasting Milestone perfumes fragrances that I own. A lot of the other ones, I feel like I go nose blind to them and my mind kind of shuts them off around the 3 to 4 hour mark. I have heard people saying that they last longer, but to me, I don't really get that good longevity out of them. But this one definitely takes the cake, and it lasts well into that 12-hour mark, no problem. In terms of the quality, I think this one is the highest quality smelling out of all of the Milestone perfumes ones that I've reviewed so far. So that is definitely saying a lot. So again, under that $20 mark, but I think this one is going to be more of a hidden gem than the other ones. And it was so funny when I saw this in the store, there was like 12 or 15 of these bottles. I kid you not. There were so many on these shelves and I just had to pick one up because it smelled so good. So if you're a fan of powdery, musky, white florals and something that's leaning very unisex, maybe a little bit more feminine, I think this one is going to be a perfect pick. And again, it's $17 and you can't go wrong with this one. So it's going to be a perfect gift for anybody or yourself. And this one performs wonderful in the spring and the summer heat. So this one's a no-brainer. Just smell this one or blind buy it if you get the chance. And that one is Milestone's Forever Paradise. So let me know if you have tried any of these fragrances or if there's any other Milestone perfumes fragrances that you can recommend, because this house truly is fantastic. They offer wonderful budget fragrances for around that $20 mark. They're Middle Eastern, and it's awesome that they're popping up around the local rack stores, especially in the US. So let me know if you've tried any of these or if you have any favorites. So that does it for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have an amazing week, and I hope you get to do all of the things that you love to do. I've been Eli with Common Sense, and until the next time, bye-bye. This fan on above does not end up helping with this. It just looks like